Oldschool RuneScape is a game that is constantly getting updated, and that usually has a really big effect on item prices. But one thing we don't see that often is an update that is planned to come out but then cancelled. This can have an equally, if not larger, effect on the market as a whole, and it's something that happened really recently. A few days ago, Jagex announced that the Ruinous prayer book is, for the foreseeable future, cancelled, which in the eyes of most people just means forever. We're not really sure about that, but for all intents and purposes, it's not happening, at least for a while. So what exactly happens to the economy when Jagex cancels an update? Well, let's start off with the item most people are talking about, and that is Dragon Bones. Or other bones for sure, but this is by far the highest volume one. If you look at the price of Dragon Bones, when they announced that the update was cancelled, they plummeted down by about 30%. Which is really significant considering that they're already down quite a bit since, April, where they were worth 3.5k each. Now, of course, other bones dropped a lot as well. This is the Superior Bone, dropping by about 10%. Here we have Dagonoth Bones dropping by about 10% as well. It doesn't really matter what you look up, they're all kind of tied together. Wyvern Bones fell again by about 20 to 30%. Now, the reason that this item dropped so quickly is because a lot of people were speculating on the Desert Treasure 2 release. The Ruinous prayer book is, of course, a prayer book, and to use some of the new high tier prayers, you would need to level up the skill, and a very popular way to do that is with Dragon Bones. We can see back when Desert Treasure 2 was actually announced, they spiked even higher, and the hype had for the most part died down, but thanks to the cancelling, it fell even further. Another interesting item, the Arcane Prayer Scroll. This item has been on quite a wild ride this week. You can see here when the Ruinous Powers beta came out, it went from about 2 mil up to a peak of 7 or 8 mil just in a few hours. Completely insane. Went up to a sustained peak of around 6 mil and then continued to drop until they announced that it was cancelled and it fell to 1.3 mil, half of what it was worth last week. Now looking at this, we can assume that the beta really drummed up a lot of hype for Augury. Clearly a lot of people were thinking Augury was going to be valuable when the Ruinous Powers came out. That tripled the item price, and then of course Jagex just nuked it by removing the actual update. The Dex Prayer Scroll saw something very similar happen, going from 30 mil up to a peak of 45 mil, not going up nearly as much, but still 50% increase is massive. But for this item, the hype died down quicker, so the cancelling of the Ruinous Powers didn't really do that much. Now, although the new prayer book itself is cancelled, the update is not, as of yet. And Desert Treasure 2 is still offering 4 new bosses with multiple new best in slot upgrades, a 2-handed axe, and the Virtus robe set, so that's still pushing a lot of demand for very common PVM items like Zenite shards, for example. Bottomed out in May at around 7 mil, but they're already up 50% since then, so Zenites are still trending up really quickly. Items like Ancestral are continuing to get more and more expensive. The full set will cost you close to 400 mil now, which is kind of crazy considering last year it was pretty much half that. Ancestral is just, look at that all-time graph, crazy, just been on a consistent upward climb ever since the beginning of 2022. Now, next up, we're going to move into forestry, but one item I want to touch on that's completely random before we move on to that, the Joger Bone. Now, a lot of you may have heard of there being a bit of a bug with Prayer and Ironman. Now, essentially what the bug is you're able to burn a Joger Bone on your main account, but you can pick it up on your Ironman, and the burnt Joger Bone will give, I think, 60 XP or something, which is kind of a lot considering it takes a long time to get prayer experience on an Ironman account. And because of that, Joger Bones have spiked up in price a lot, going from only around 1,000 each up to, some were sold for looks like 30,000 or more, which is kind of crazy. It just goes to show how valuable prayer experience or like something like Herblore would be if you could somehow transfer it to your Ironman. And even as of just a few hours ago, the bones are still going for 4 times more than they're worth before. Okay, so moving on to the upcoming forestry update that should be coming out in just about a week. There are a number of items that have been affected due to the update. Probably the most obvious one that a lot of people have been talking about is the Dragon Axe. This item has gone all over the place ever since forestry has been announced. The Dragon Axe went from 40k up to 300k, I'm pretty sure, at its peak, and has been fluctuating up and down ever since then. This month is up another 50 or 60%, which is a lot for an item that historically has been ALC value. Obviously, forestry is a woodcutting update, The Dragon Axe is the best axe that costs nothing at least. So a lot of people are investing and speculating that this will be very in demand when Forestry releases. However, that's not the only item. An item that's actually gone up more than that percentage-wise, and I think it's kind of interesting, cooked meat. Cooked meat is an item that will be used in one of the forestry consumable items. I think it's the one that will give you run energy back when you eat them. These will create forestry rations. Now, because cooked meat is not particularly a popular item, sure, it's not hard to get, but you know, there's only 10, 15,000 traded some days. It's not a super high volume item, surprisingly. Because of that, the price has been going up very, very quickly. Currently, it's worth about 250 each, so already tripling in value. Now, whether this will continue to go up or crash on release is really hard to say. It's really going to depend on how many forestry rations you actually need to use, because I've been a little bit aloof about that. Now, another category of item that's up a lot thanks to forestry are herbs. If you look at most herbs, they're up somewhere between 10 and 30% on the month. Here we have Avantos, which are up 1,000 gold each. Torsals are up about 25%. Quorums are up a significant amount. Dwarf weeds even up a bit. Now these are all up thanks to one new item, Nature's Offering. This item will give you a 60 to 80% chance of getting an additional log. But again, we don't quite know enough about forestry to know for sure how much of an effect this is going to have, but in a week-ish, we will know. Another item that has gone up a lot this month is actually the Abyssal Whip, and that's thanks almost entirely to Bounty Hunter. Whips are actually under $1 million for the first time ever back in April, but Bounty Hunter just quickly rocketed them back up to their price last year. We talked about Bounty Hunter items last time, but essentially anything used in the PvP minigame, Bounty Hunter has gone up a lot. Abyssal Whips, Tentacle Whips, very, very popular item, and it's something I missed last time, but one of the most iconic items has doubled, if not close to tripled in price over the last month. Now, it's had a knock-on effect on one of RuneScape's newest items, the Venator Bow. The Venator Bow is something I thought would actually fall to a very low price point quickly, but people are actually finding a lot of interesting uses for them, and if you look at the Abyssal Whip and the Venator Bow the last month, they share pretty much an identical price graph. Now that's because the Venator Bow is the best way to get Abyssal Whips, and with whips doubling in price, the Venator Bow saw a lot more people wanting it, and went up to a peak of 45 mil in June. Now the Void Waker is probably the most popular new weapon we've had in a long time, and thanks to Bounty Hunter, the price actually stabilized and even went up to as high as 200 mil again. But one thing that's unfortunate about the item is all of the component parts are heavily botted and reasonably easy to access both level-wise and physically where they are. So this month the item has started to fall pretty quickly, down 50 mil already on the month, and my guess is it's probably going to be under 100 mil by the end of the summer, potentially, but who knows. Now another item that's going to break new ground pretty soon, the old Screenscape Bond. This item hit 9 mil this month for a very short period of time, but still 9 mil is incredibly expensive. The 10 mil bond is coming pretty soon. We honestly might see it by the end of the year. Gonna be kind of a historic day. It just kind of goes to show how valuable RuneScape Gold is in comparison to the US dollar, for example. There's no doubt that the value of RuneScape Gold is not staying consistent over the years, or bond prices would be pretty similar still. But over the last 6 years, bond prices have gone up by about 4 or 5 times in value, and doesn't look like it's stopping anytime soon. Anyway guys, that's going to be it for the market recap this month. We got 2 big updates that should be coming soon, so I'm really interested to see how it's going to shake out by the end of the summer. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you next time. Now before I go here, I want to give a giant thank you to all of my members over on YouTube. Thank you so much to Aelandra, Mitch Reynders, The Hybrid, and Kush Patel for all being subscribed at the Dragon tier. You guys are awesome. I do really appreciate it. Also thank you to Kapersky, yoyosup89, and NDM0001 for being subscribed at the Runite tier. Thanks everyone again, and I'll see you next time.